because I have to be completely honest with you.
Oh.
Yeah. When we first decided to tackle the specific material for today's deep dive, I was a little skeptical.
I can completely understand that.
Right, because we're looking at just the introductory paragraph and the table of contents for a textbook chapter.
Specifically, the chapter on environmental issues.
Exactly. And if you are sitting there listening to this right now, studying for a massive competitive exam, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, they definitely do.
The introduction and the syllabus outline are, they're usually the pages you just flip past.
Right, you flip past them to get to the bolded terms.
Yeah, all the terms and the diagrams.
They are the pages that get skipped almost universally.
Exactly.
Students are always in a rush to get to what they perceive as the real biology.
Right. I mean, my initial thought was that this was just going to be a dry, depressing catalog of chores.
A list of everything going wrong with the planet.
Pretty much. But I forced myself to slow down. I sat with the actual wording of this introductory text, and I tried to look at the structure of the chapter headings.
And what did you find?
I realized something huge. This isn't just a random list of facts to memorize.
Not at all.
It is a highly structured, tightly wound map.
Yes.
But more than that, it feels like the authors are trying to send a very specific message before we even start learning the science.
What's fascinating here is that your initial reluctance is the exact psychological hurdle every single Neet aspirant faces.
Really?
Absolutely. As someone who has mentored students for over 15 years, preparing them for an exam where a single dropped question can lower your rank by thousands.
Which is terrifying, by the way.
It is terrifying.
Yeah.
But I see this textbook fatigue all the time.
Yeah.
You are staring at a page at 2 in the morning, your brain is tired, and you just want the high-yield facts so you can go to sleep.
I have been there so many times.
We all have. But here is the secret. Examiners know this.
They know we skip it.
They know you skip the introduction. They know you glaze over the logical flow of the table of contents.
Wow.
And that is precisely where they lay their conceptual traps.
That makes so much sense. We treat the syllabus like a table of contents, but the examiner treats it like a blueprint.
Perfectly said. A blueprint.
And for you listening right now, you are sitting right here with us as we map out exactly how to conquer this blueprint.
That's right.
We are going into a deep dive on the absolute foundation of environmental biology.
We aren't just going to read you the text.
But we are going to get inside the head of the person writing your exam paper.
Exactly. We are going to look at the exact wording of this introduction and its table of contents, and we're going to extract the insights you need to confidently lock down these concepts.
So to do that, where do we start?
To do that effectively, we have to start exactly where the text starts. We need to cut straight to the core idea.
Okay, the opening line.
Yes. The text opens by laying out a massive global conflict. It says, human population size has grown enormously over the last 100 years.
That is the opening line.
That is it.
It's such a simple sentence, but when you stop and think about it.
Why does this topic even exist in our biology syllabus?
Right. What is the fundamental problem we're trying to solve here?
The fundamental problem is the tension between a biological entity, which is us, humans,
Multiplying rapidly.
multiplying at an unprecedented rate, and a physical environment that is finite.
Okay, wait. Notice the text doesn't say since the dawn of humanity.
Excellent catch. It is incredibly specific.
It pinpoints over the last 100 years.
Right. And in evolutionary biology, 100 years is nothing.
It's a blink.
It is a fraction of a millisecond. But in that tiny window, the text tells us our population hasn't just grown.
It has grown enormously.
Precisely.
The word enormously feels very deliberate.
Because it is.
It's not steadily or gradually. It implies an explosion.
Precisely. We have introduced a variable into the global ecosystem that is scaling exponentially.
While the resources available to sustain that variable are just stubborn, they are immovably fixed.
That is exactly why this chapter exists. If the population had stayed stable, the natural carrying capacity of the Earth might have handled our footprint.
But the enormous growth breaks the equation.
It shatters it.
Okay, I want to try and visualize this because building a mental model always helps me lock things in.
Well, go for it. Let's hear it.
Think of it like an expanding rubber balloon inside a rigid, heavy metal box.
Okay, I'm visualizing it.
The balloon represents human demand, driven by that enormous population growth over the last 100 years.
Right.
The metal box represents Earth's natural resources. It has a fixed volume. It cannot expand.
It cannot stretch to accommodate us.
Exactly. So as that balloon inflates faster and faster, it starts pressing against the walls of the metal box. Eventually, the rubber is stretched so tight against the metal that there is immense friction.
And pressure.
Right, the inevitable squeezing of that balloon against the unyielding metal. That friction, that stress, is pollution.
Yes.
That friction is environmental degradation.
That is a brilliant analogy, and it leads perfectly to the ultimate mission statement that the text explicitly lays out for us.
A mission statement.
Because we are the people living inside that expanding balloon. We can't just pop it.
That would be bad.
It would be catastrophic. So the text states, and this is a critical phrase you need to pay attention to.
I'm ready.
It says, the need of the hour is to check the degradation and depletion of our precious natural resources and pollution without halting the process of development.
Without halting the process of development.
Let that sink in.
That feels like the most important phrase in the entire introduction. It completely changes the tone of the chapter.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the goal of environmental biology, as presented by this syllabus, is not some utopian regression.
No.
The textbook is not telling you that the solution to pollution is for all of us to abandon modern medicine, give up electricity, and go back to living as hunter-gatherers in the forest.
Exactly. It acknowledges that human development, technological progress, improving lifespans, lifting people out of poverty, all of that is a process that will continue.
And must continue.
And must continue.
Because it's not an anti-progress manifesto. It's an
Right.
engineering problem.
That is the perfect way to phrase it. The challenge, the puzzle that this entire field of study is trying to solve is how to relieve the pressure in that metal box.
Without stopping the balloon from safely accommodating everyone inside.
We have to check the degradation, meaning we have to stop breaking the box and running out of the air inside it while still moving forward as a species.
It is a complex biological and physical balancing act.
It is.
Okay, let's unpack this further and build a solid mental map for the listener. Because if you want to master this material, you need to be able to visualize this as a flowchart of cause and effect.
A flowchart is the best way to tackle this.
Right. So we start at the top with our overarching cause. Enormous human population growth over the last 100 years.
That's the top box.
Now, let's look at what that growth directly triggers. The text lists 6 specific demands.
Let's hear them.
It says this growth means an increase in demand for food, water, home, electricity, roads, and automobiles.
Now, let's stop and look very closely at that list.
Okay.
One of the biggest mistakes a student can make is assuming a list in a textbook is just a random assortment of words.
You mean they aren't just giving random examples?
Never. As a mentor, I always tell my students to look for the logical progression in any list.
Okay, let me look at it again.
These are the pillars of human demand, and the author has scaled them in a very specific, revealing way.
Let me see if I can spot the pattern. Food, water, home. That's the first half.
Right.
Then it moves to electricity, roads, and automobiles.
What is the fundamental difference between those two halves of the list?
Well, the first half, food, water, and a home. Those are absolute physiological necessities.
Exactly.
If you strip away all of modern civilization, a human being still needs calories, hydration, and shelter from the elements to survive.
Correct. Those are the baseline requirements for a biological organism to exist in its environment.
Now look at the second half.
Electricity, roads, automobiles.
We won't die immediately without a road or a car. Those aren't biological needs. Those are modern conveniences.
I wouldn't just call them conveniences.
What would you call them?
I would call them developmental needs.
Developmental needs.
This is where that phrase, process of development from the introduction, really takes shape.
The list transitions beautifully from basic physiological survival to complex societal infrastructure.
Yes. We are not just demanding more berries to forage or a stream to drink from. We are demanding a highly complex, resource-intensive reality.
And the text explicitly links this progression of demands to the destruction of the environment.
It does. It states, these demands are exerting tremendous pressure on our natural resources and are also contributing to pollution of air, water, and soil.
This is why the flowchart concept is so vital for exam preparation.
Tell me more about that.
If you just memorize facts in isolation, you will struggle when the examiner asks a higher-order application-based question.
Absolutely.
But if you understand the chain of demand,
Which is
That population explosion leads to increased demand for physiological and developmental needs,
Yes.
which creates tremendous pressure on finite resources,
Right.
which inevitably results in pollution and degradation.
If you see that flow, you can reason your way through almost any conceptual question.
Because you understand the why behind the process. Imagine if you only memorize the word pollution without understanding that the root cause is actually your demand for electricity and roads.
The text wants you to see the human behavioral root.
It wants you to understand that when you flip a light switch or when a new highway is paved to connect two cities, you are actively participating in the very mechanism that drives this entire syllabus.
The demands are not abstract concepts.
They are the literal extraction of materials from the earth to build homes, generate power, and manufacture cars, which inherently creates waste byproducts.
That is exactly right. You've nailed the essence of it.
So now that we understand the philosophical and structural root of the problem, we need to shift gears.
We need to look at how this is rigorously defined.
Yes, because in a competitive exam, philosophy only gets you so far. You need absolute precision.
You do.
I am ready. This is where I want to shift into high gear because I know there are specific ways this material is tested.
There are specific traps that students fall into when they are tired and rushing.
Let's look at the exact definition of pollution provided in the text. I will read it word for word.
Go ahead.
Pollution is any undesirable change in physical, chemical, or biological characteristics of air, land, water, or soil.
All right, put your examiner hat on for a moment.
Okay, it's on.
Imagine you are setting a multiple choice paper for Neet. You look at this sentence. This sentence is an absolute goldmine for testing a student's precision, recall, and ability to read carefully.
I'm trying to think like an examiner. If I'm writing an MCQ, I want to create options that look almost correct to trick the student who is just skimming.
Exactly. Where is the trap?
Is the trap in the word any? Do they swap it with significant or harmful?
That is a very good guess, and examiners do play with those adjectives. But the very first high-yield concept you need to underline is the word undesirable.
Undesirable.
The text doesn't say pollution is any change in the environment. It specifically says it is an undesirable change.
Right, because environments change naturally all the time without it being considered pollution.
Exactly. Seasons change the physical temperature of a lake.
A natural forest fire caused by a lightning strike changes the chemical composition of the soil.
Or a river might flood and deposit new silt.
Those are profound physical and chemical changes.
But they are part of the natural ecological cycle. Pollution requires a negative value judgment relative to the health of the ecosystem or human well-being.
It is undesirable.
So if an examiner gives you an option that says pollution is any change in the physical, chemical, or biological characteristics of the environment, that option is fundamentally incorrect.
The keyword is undesirable. That makes perfect sense. It's not about maintaining a static, unchanging planet in a glass case. It's about preventing changes that disrupt and harm the biological systems.
Exactly.
But I feel like there's another trap in here. Physical, chemical, or biological characteristics.
Yes. This is a classic trap, and it catches thousands of students every single year. Let me tell you a story.
I'd love to hear it.
A few years ago, I had a brilliant student. She had memorized almost the entire textbook, but she came out of the exam hall devastated over a single question regarding the definition of pollution.
Oh no, what happened?
She had chosen an option that read, pollution is any undesirable change in the physical and chemical characteristics of air, water, or soil.
She missed the word biological.
She missed the word biological.
Wow.
And here's why this happens so frequently. When we hear the word pollution, our human brains immediately conjure up very specific, highly visual images.
We think of dark smoke billowing from factory stacks.
We think of toxic, neon green sludge pouring out of a pipe into a river.
Right, which are physical and chemical changes.
Exactly. Temperature shifts in water from a power plant, that's a physical change. Heavy metals leaching into the ground, that's a chemical change.
Those are easy for a student to visualize and intuitively grasp.
So, under the immense time pressure of an exam, students easily verify physical and chemical in the options. But biological pollution is less intuitive.
So what does biological pollution actually look like?
It could be the introduction of an invasive species that decimates a local food web.
Oh, I see.
It could be an artificial increase in nutrients that causes a massive, suffocating algal bloom in a lake, which strips the oxygen from the water and kills the fish.
The pollutant itself is a biological organism or process that creates an undesirable change.
That is such a crucial distinction.
It really is.
Here's what you must remember. Examiners love to trick students by omitting or swapping the word biological in the options.
A tired student rushing through the paper will see undesirable change. They will see physical and chemical.
And they will confidently bubble in the answer, thinking they got it right.
You must remember all three characteristics: physical, chemical, and biological.
If you leave one out, you do not have the full textbook definition.
Okay, so that's the event itself, the undesirable change.
Right.
So what does this all mean for the cause? The text immediately follows up with a second definition.
Read it out.
Agents that bring about such an undesirable change are called as pollutants.
This is a simple but vital conceptual distinction. Pollution is the process, the event, the state of the environment being changed.
And the pollutant is the agent.
The actual physical, chemical, or biological entity that is executing the change.
It's the difference between the crime and the criminal. Pollution is the crime taking place. The pollutant is the criminal holding the weapon.
I love that analogy. It perfectly encapsulates the relationship between the two terms.
But let's look closer at the scene of this crime.
Okay.
The definition lists 4 specific domains where this undesirable change can happen: air, land, water, or soil.
Yes, air, land, water, or soil.
When I first read that list, I actually paused. Why list both land and soil?
That is a great question.
Because in everyday conversation, we use those words interchangeably. Aren't they the exact same thing?
That is exactly the kind of critical reading that separates top-tier students from the rest of the pack. No, they are absolutely not the same thing.
Really?
And the textbook's language is incredibly precise here. It is making a distinction between the macro and the micro.
Okay, unpack that for me. How does the textbook view land?
Land refers to the broader geographical space, the physical surface area of the Earth.
Okay.
When we talk about polluting land, we are often talking about a spatial issue. Think of a massive, sprawling municipal garbage dump.
Right.
You are taking acres of geographic space and rendering it unusable by covering it in solid waste.
Yeah.
You have polluted the land physically.
And soil, how is that different?
Soil is the dynamic, living, chemical, and biological medium that sits on top of the land.
Ah, I see.
It is the complex matrix of minerals, organic matter, and microorganisms where plants actually grow.
So they aren't the same at all.
You can have a piece of land that looks completely fine from an airplane. There are no giant garbage piles, no visible spatial pollution.
But the soil itself might be deeply polluted.
With invisible chemical pesticides or agrochemicals that have destroyed its biological characteristics.
Oh, wow.
So you can pollute land by covering it in trash, and you can pollute soil by poisoning its chemical makeup.
The text differentiates them to ensure that both the macrogeographical impacts and the microbiological impacts are covered under the umbrella of pollution.
Precisely.
That is subtle, but once you point out the difference between land as a spatial concept and soil as a living medium, the textbook's definition makes a lot more sense.
It does.
And because the stakes are so incredibly high, because this pollution threatens those basic demands for survival we talked about earlier, food, water, home, there has to be a mechanism for control.
Which brings us to the legal framework mentioned in the text.
The government of India's intervention.
This is another massive high-yield area for exams. Anytime a specific law or date is mentioned in biology, you need to highlight it, circle it, and commit it to memory.
The text states, in order to control environmental pollution, the government of India has passed the Environment Protection Act, 1986, to protect and improve the quality of our environment, air, water, and soil.
All right, I hope you have your metaphorical highlighter ready.
What do I need to lock in here?
Here's what you must remember. The exact name of the act, the Environment Protection Act, and the exact year, 1986.
1386.
I cannot stress this enough. In exams like Neet, years and legislative acts are frequently tested in match the following formats.
Oh, I hate those questions. They're so easy to mess up if you are second-guessing yourself.
Exactly. You will be presented with a grid. Column A will have a list of acts, the Water Act, the Air Act, the Environment Act.
And column B will have a list of years.
And the examiners will purposely include distractors.
Oh, of course they will.
They might list 1986, but they will also list 1968 to test if you transpose the numbers in your head.
Or 1996.
Exactly. They will test your pure recall. Misremembering 1986 is a fatal, completely avoidable error.
It doesn't require complex biological reasoning. It is a pure memory anchor.
1986.
1986, the Environment Protection Act. Got it.
Good.
But I want to look a little closer at the exact wording of what the act is supposed to do.
Let's do it.
The text says its purpose is to protect and improve the quality of our environment. And then it explicitly defines that environment in brackets as air, water, and soil.
Notice that it dropped land here and focused purely on the three vital biological mediums.
That stuck out to me too, but look at the verbs used.
This raises an important question, doesn't it?
It does. If you pass a law to protect something, the implication is that you are putting a shield around it to keep it exactly as it is.
You are guarding it from future harm.
But improve means something else entirely.
Exactly. By adding the word improve, the text is making a profound, almost sobering acknowledgement about the state of the world.
It implies that the environment is already degraded.
We are already operating at a massive biological deficit. The baseline quality of our air, water, and soil has already been severely compromised by that 100 years of enormous population growth and developmental demand we discussed at the beginning.
That is a huge realization.
It changes the whole perspective.
The law isn't just about maintaining the status quo. We aren't just guarding a pristine forest from being touched. We are actively trying to regrow a forest that has already burned down.
We have to improve it because it's already damaged. It is a restorative act, not just a defensive one.
And this realization leads us perfectly into the second half of our deep dive.
Because if the environment is already degraded and we need to understand how to protect and improve it, we need a roadmap.
And that is exactly how the syllabus itself is structured. It is designed to teach you about this damage in a very specific sequence.
Yes.
This brings us to my favorite part of analyzing this source material, the table of contents epiphany.
I love this part.
When I was looking at the outline of the chapter, sections 16.1 through 16.9, at first glance, it really does just look like a list of chores.
Section 16.1 is air pollution, 16.2 is water pollution, 16.3 is solid wastes, and so on.
But here's where it gets really interesting. When you step back and look at the order of the topics, you realize it is not a random list at all.
Not at all.
It is a perfectly scaled roadmap of human impact. It tells a chronological, spatial, and biological story of how we are interacting with the planet.
This is where we transition from memorizing definitions to truly understanding the architecture of the subject.
Exactly.
I always tell my students, if you understand the narrative flow of a chapter, you never have to blindly memorize what comes next. You can deduce it logically.
Because it just flows.
Walk us through it. How do you see the map unfolding?
Okay, let's zoom out and look at the macro structure. The chapter starts with the absolute, most immediate, critical elements of biological survival.
See it.
Section 16.1 is air pollution and its control. Section 16.2 is water pollution and its control.
Which perfectly mirrors our earlier discussion about physiological needs. Think about the biological rule of threes for survival.
The rule of three.
Yes. You can survive roughly 3 minutes without air. You can survive roughly 3 days without water.
Wow.
The syllabus intentionally prioritizes the biological mediums that are most vital for immediate short-term survival.
If the air and water are catastrophically polluted, nothing else in the chapter matters. Human life ceases immediately.
Exactly. The textbook tackles the most urgent biological threats first.
Then, once the immediate survival mediums are covered, the syllabus shifts focus.
Where does it go next?
In section 16.3, we look at solid wastes. 16.4 is agrochemicals and their effects. And 16.5 is radioactive waste.
This is where we see the physical byproducts of the human demands we analyzed earlier.
Notice how perfectly that aligns with the demands listed in the first paragraph.
Walk me through those connections.
Agrochemicals in section 16.4 are the direct, unavoidable result of our demand for food for that enormously growing population.
To feed billions of people, we couldn't rely on traditional farming. We had to use synthetic fertilizers and chemical pesticides to force the earth to yield more calories per acre.
Radioactive wastes in section 16.5 are the direct result of our modern developmental demand for electricity.
We learned how to split atoms to keep the lights on and power our hospitals and cities. But in doing so, we generated highly toxic waste that lasts for millennia.
Solid wastes in section 16.3 are the byproduct of our demand for homes and various other consumer commodities.
The syllabus is systematically walking you through the environmental cost of the demands outlined in the introduction.
It's all connected. Every section is a direct answer to the pressures mentioned on page 1.
But then there is a massive conceptual pivot in the syllabus.
Yes, the pivot. Up until this point, sections 16.1 through 16.5, we are primarily talking about local or regional issues.
Right, the smog in a specific city's air.
The sewage dumped into a local river.
The trash piling up in a municipal dump.
Or the chemical runoff in a specific farmer's field. But at Section 16.6, the scope goes global.
It's a huge shift.
Section 16.6 is greenhouse effect and global warming. Section 16.7 is ozone depletion in the stratosphere.
Suddenly, we aren't just talking about local environment anymore. We are talking about the atmospheric physics of the entire planet.
This is a crucial conceptual leap for a student to make, and examiners love to test your understanding of scale.
If you connect this to the bigger picture, the syllabus itself is telling a story of escalating consequences. It scales from the micro to the macro.
It starts with a local puddle poisoned by agrochemicals,
Moves to the regional air quality compromised by automobile exhaust.
and scales all the way up to the global stratosphere where the ozone layer is being depleted.
It is designed to show you that human impact cannot be permanently contained.
What starts as a local demand for a developmental commodity eventually alters the thermodynamics of the entire Earth.
The scale of it is actually quite terrifying when you lay it out like that.
But the organization of it by the authors is brilliant. It pulls you further and further back until you are looking at the whole Earth.
And then we reach the conclusion of the chapter.
Section 16.8 is degradation by improper resource utilization and maintenance.
And section 16.9 is deforestation.
I often ask my students this, and I'll ask you, why do you think the chapter ends there?
Why end the entire narrative of environmental issues with deforestation? Why not put it in the middle?
I was thinking about this. To me, it feels like the final fatal consequence.
How so?
If we fail to control the air and water, if we drown our land in solid and radioactive waste, if we alter the global climate with the greenhouse effect and destroy the ozone layer,
Yes.
the ultimate result is the complete degradation of the resources and the death of the very forests that anchor the terrestrial ecosystem.
Forests are the lungs of the earth.
They regulate the water cycle, they hold the soil together. Removing them is the collapse of the entire system. It's the end of the line.
You've hit the nail on the head. The elegance of this design is profound. Deforestation isn't just another bullet point.
It's the culmination of unchecked demand.
I tell my students all the time, understanding this flow means you never have to blindly memorize what comes next in the textbook.
You just follow the logic of human destruction and intervention.
It starts with a single breath of polluted air and ends with a barren, deforested landscape.
The syllabus itself is a warning, laid out mathematically and logically.
It is incredibly powerful when you view it through that lens.
We've taken a single introductory paragraph and a brief table of contents and unpacked what is essentially a masterclass in environmental biology, the physics of human demand, and test prep strategy.
Which means it is time to solidify this in the minds of our listeners.
Yes, time for the summary.
We have covered a lot of ground, dissected a lot of vocabulary, and built a comprehensive mental map. Let's do the sticky summary.
I am ready. Let's lock it in.
I am going to give you the rapid-fire version of everything important we've discussed today. These are the 5 critical memory anchors you absolutely cannot afford to forget when you walk into that exam hall.
Lay them on me.
Number 1, the root cause. The past 100 years of enormous population explosion is the fundamental driver of all human demand and the subsequent tremendous pressure on finite resources.
Got it.
Number 2, the ultimate dilemma. The goal of environmental biology is to check degradation and depletion without halting the process of human development. It is a biological balancing act, not a regression.
Balancing act.
Number 3, the definition trap. Pollution is an undesirable change. And you must remember all 3 characteristics: physical, chemical, and biological. Do not let the examiner trick you into forgetting the biological aspect, like invasive species or algal blooms.
Physical, chemical, biological. Check.
Number 4, the legal shield. The government of India passed the Environment Protection Act. The year is 1986. Memorize it to avoid failing simple match the following questions.
1986. Check.
Number 5, the scope of the law. The 1986 Act exists to protect A&D improve air, water, and soil. The word improve acknowledges that we are already operating at an environmental deficit and must actively repair the damage. And remember the difference between land as a macro-spatial concept and soil as a microbiological medium.
That is an incredibly focused summary. I feel like I could walk into an exam right now and confidently tackle any conceptual question on this introduction.
That is the goal.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over.
Something to take away with them.
We've talked a lot about textbooks, syllabi, and exams. The text explicitly says we must check degradation without halting the process of development.
Right?
But think about the developmental demands listed. Automobiles, electricity, roads, numerous other commodities.
They are everywhere. everywhere.
I want you to look around your room right now, wherever you are studying or listening to this. Ask yourself, how much of what you are using right this very second is contributing to that tremendous pressure on natural resources?
The power plant generating the electricity charging your device.
The extracted materials in the walls of your home? The synthetic dyes in the clothes you are wearing?
The solution to the syllabus isn't just found in passing a multiple choice test.
No, it's hidden in how we fundamentally design our future and how we choose to consume the finite resources inside our metal box.
A profound point. True knowledge is only valuable when it is applied to our reality, not just bubbled onto a Scantron sheet.
Exactly. So take this foundational mental map, hold on to these high-yield insights, and apply them as you tackle the rest of your environmental biology studies and as you navigate the world outside the textbook.
You have the tools now to see the big picture.
Keep questioning, keep connecting the dots, and keep diving deep into the material.